Today I am here with Elizabeth Beck. She is working on what has become known as the DNC fraud lawsuit, and I'm definitely glad she is speaking with me today. This is an extremely important case that honestly isn't getting the attention that it deserves, and I guess that's where we can start off, Ms. Beck. With this case, we spoke earlier yesterday about it, and it's in the beginning stages, but still it's with the magnitude of what this case could bring. Why do you feel it's not getting a lot of coverage, especially from more mainstream outlets?
You know, it's difficult. I'm not a journalist. I don't claim to understand that field. So I couldn't tell you why mainstream media is not covering this lawsuit. I do find it disturbing that they're not covering it very minimally, if at all. And so far, the one or two examples that have happened have not limited the Boston Herald that came out, and instead of just reporting on the facts of the case, it was actually, I even consider it an op-ed, where interjected his opinions about the case, and I believe he basically said it doesn't look like this case is going to go anywhere. That's prognosticating. Consider that reporting. So I don't know why mainstream media is just not reporting the facts of the case that's been going on for almost a year now.
And that's something that to me just comes off as problematic. I'm sure with certain outlets there might be a partisan leaning there, which there shouldn't be in this case, because honestly this would affect the way elections are done across the board. And even though, as you said, it's been a year ongoing, it's still in the beginning stages. And that's something we definitely want to dig into a little bit. But first, can you tell everyone that's watching how many lawyers are working with you on this case and the different law firms they represent?
At this point, there are 3 law firms that are working together as plaintiff's counsel in this case. There's a total of 5 attorneys. So the 3 law firms are Beck and Lee, and that's myself, Beck, and our associate Beverly Viruez. We also have staff. The law office of Cullen O'Brien, he is in Broward, Fort Lauderdale, which is 1 county up, which is where the case is pending. And Tony Hernandez, who is an attorney here in Miami.
And I think what recently has caused quite a bit of stir, especially online, is when you release the transcripts of the recent hearing, and we spoke about that earlier. And that you personally, your law firm had to purchase the transcripts and upload them. And
that's just very standard. You know, in every, I don't know too much about the criminal context, but in civil lawsuits, if you want to memorialize a hearing, or certainly in the case of depositions, you absolutely need a court reporter there. What people say is recorded by a professional, a court reporter. And I don't know how they do it, but sometimes lawyers will be yelling and talking over each other, and they get down everything. Okay, so they take down everything. And then if you want a copy of that, yes, you purchase it.
And that's where a lot of the intrigue about this case seemingly has spiked interest, is with the transcripts, especially what the lawyer representing the DNC and DEBORAH WASSERMANSCHULTZ was his comments. It was, I guess, if you want, I guess to his credit, it was very candid and very eye-opening. And you said that that's expected in the courtroom, because you don't, because you don't expect a lawyer to walk in there and basically just lie to a judge and just paint a picture that is not true. So when people, so did you expect the, I guess the attention the case for the case to go up once people read through those transcripts?
Oh, I didn't know, but I do know this. I do know that, you know, the lawsuit was filed in June of last year, so it's been going on for a year. And then around the time when the lawsuit was filed, both before and after, so many people emailed us looking for information and offering information and clamoring for additional information on the lawsuit that that my email blew up. It just, you know, so I had to, you know, so I knew that the public wanted to know. Okay, it was their lawsuit. They felt that this lawsuit was putting forth their rights in court, their rights. And so as part of our mission to keep our, what we perceive to be our clients apprised of their case and to give updates, it's kind of difficult because it's not one person. It's, I don't even know how many people out there are following. I know the Facebook page has over 50,000 likes, but a lot of people also lurk. So it's hard to guess, but the class itself is millions of people. So as part of our mission to keep people apprised of their lawsuit, we have given fairly regular updates since the inception of the lawsuit. So because of all of that, I knew that there was a lot of interest in the hearing even before you know, the hearing was set, because people would ask, what's going on with the case? What are the next steps? So I knew that the public's interest was there. So I can't say that it was a surprise that the public would be so interested in the transcript, because a lot of people obviously can't physically be at the hearing. You know, only a small number of local folks could go, and even then the courtroom was filled. But from what I understand, I wasn't able to be there. But transcript is a way, along with a court sketch artist, because you can't have cameras inside the courthouse. Can't have cameras inside federal courthouses. So that was the closest thing we could do to bring what happened in that courtroom to the people who want updates with a minimum of commentary, editing, or editorializing, which has always been our goal.
And then especially with today's society, now information is passed so quickly, I think that is extremely important to minimize that and to give people exactly what happened. And I think that's definitely the benefit of putting out the full transcripts, because that's exactly what I read. I didn't read any other commentary around it. I just looked straight at the transcripts, and I was shocked because I was not expecting that much honesty, and basically, I don't want to put exact words in the DNC's lawyer's mouth, but basically saying that it's since the DNC is a private institution, they have the right to run an election how they want, whether or not it's fairly ran or not, and there's no court precedent for a court to say that, or no legal precedent for a court to say that you can't run an election this way, whether it is fair or not. So that's really the things that really stuck out to me. And I guess that's also, this might be a somewhat technical question. Is that true? Is there really no precedent at all for, as you said, this is a fraud case, and would it really matter if it's a political fraud case or personal fraud case, or does that a business fraud case, or is a fraud case just a fraud case?
several responses. One is fraud is a really, really old doctrine in our legal system. It doesn't arise from a law. It's not a bunch of politicians getting together and passing, you know, a law against fraud. Fraud is what is called a common law claim. And what that means is it goes back even before there was a United States of America. Okay, that's how old fraud claims in court are. And it arises from our collective agreement that lying should not be tolerated. Lying should not be tolerated in a society that has rules and laws. So common law, fraud as a common law claim means that you can't lie to deceive someone for your own benefit. It's it's very common sense, you know, and it comes from our legal traditions precedent of the British common law system, which we inherited as a former colony. So it goes back a long way. The other thing is, you ask, what difference does it make who's doing the defrauding? I would say that in our legal system and in our society, people and legal entities such as an LLC or corporations all have standing. Okay, they all have standing to sue and be sued in court. Now, the defendants here are two entities. One is a person, Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman-Schultz, but the other one is a corporation. It's a legal entity. If you look at the style of the case, BA. So what that means is you can incorporate a company. I mean, it doesn't matter. You can decide to open up a small business. Okay, maybe you want to sell flowers and you want to incorporate. And that's a corporation. But you do your business using another name. That's called the DBA. So the Democratic National Committee, that's how they do business in the public, but it's a corporation. It's DNC Services Corporation, and they certainly can be sued in court, just like they can sue in court. And whether you're a person or a corporation, if you commit fraud, you are going to get hauled into court.
So pretty much it really just doesn't matter if a court's ever really ruled on the actions of a political party before, since fraud is fraud, no matter who you are.
Well, there's a lot of, first of all, there's tons of cases on fraud. Okay, so fraud is not a novel claim. And there's tons of cases of corporations getting sued. A corporation getting sued is not novel either. So I don't know why people are, well, some people, not everyone. I don't know why some people are getting, you know, having hysterics over there's no precedent for it. In some ways, there's no precedent, but the legal underpinnings, there's plenty of case law that support plaintiff's position.
And
the fact that even if it's a nonprofit, it doesn't matter, because there's case law where charities, okay, charities, not people, nonprofit charities have been sued for fraud. Okay, so they were soliciting, you know, they were soliciting donations. So there's a lot of case law that support plaintiffs' claims against the defendants in court.
And that actually brings up a part of the transcripts that also stood out to me. Were you, I guess, surprised when the DNC lawyer did point out that, well, when he stated this claim, which I'm not sure on well, I actually dispute the fact level of his claim, is when he basically said those individuals who were donating to the DNC kind of knew it was fixed to begin with, basically saying they were admitting that they were donating to something where they had no choices. So when, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but isn't that some way an admission of that there is some sort of fraud taking place if that's their official position to begin with?
I wasn't at the hearing, so all I know is what is in the transcript. Um, I will say this, you know, we're at a stage of the lawsuit where it's called the motion to dismiss, and generally, for a court to consider a motion to dismiss, everyone is limited to what is called the four corners of the complaint. So what people were thinking, the nuts and bolts of how the fraud occurred, if fraud occurred, that is to be hashed out in the discovery phase, because these are factual questions. So I don't really know what he was getting at. I don't know. I don't know what he was trying to say.
And I guess that's tells into the next part. Is like,
You'll have to ask him.
oh,
You'll have to ask
that's true.
Steve.
When if, well, I guess because the judge is still making up his decision here, if the, well, actually we can talk about that for a second. What are the options from here? For there's a full dismissal, and there's dismissal with prejudice, and there's two other dismissals that we spoke about before that I think are important, so people understand what happened, what could happen from here.
So there's, broadly speaking, there are three possible results at this point. So a motion is nothing more than somebody asking the court to do something. So a motion to dismiss is the defendant asking the court to dismiss the case. Three things can happen. One is that the court agrees with them and grants their motion with prejudice. That means the case is thrown out of court, it's gone. Okay. The second is the court denies their motion, in which case their motion, their request to have the case thrown out is rejected, and then we enter the discovery phase, which means the lawsuit is permitted to march forward. The third option is the motion to dismiss is granted without prejudice, and this happens when the court, in some cases, wishes the plaintiffs to restate some of their claims. Some claims may get dismissed, some claims are allowed to stand. The court may direct the plaintiffs to file another amended complaint, at which point either another motion to dismiss gets filed or the defendant is directed to answer. So that doesn't mean that the case ends. It just means the court may see some issues that to sort of clean up or fix up, which is, you know, it happens. That's not a big, I don't consider that to be a big deal. I've done cases where the courts have directed the plaintiff to restate claims with greater detail, or you know, restate the facts, and so we do that, and then at that point the case may very well march forward.
And
but those are the three options.
Let's say that the judge goes with denies the motion or dismisses without prejudice. What would the process be from there? I'm assuming, yeah, if the motion is denied, you go into discovery. What would that take place, and what would you see having to do if you have to go back if it is dismissed without prejudice?
So discovery, as the word may suggest to you, is a process by which both sides get to discover what the heck is going on in a lawsuit. And a lot of what happens in discovery is not voluntary. It's have to do things. So these are the tools in the toolkit that would aid both sides in getting information. So one is called requests for production. And that's just a fancy way of saying, give me your documents, okay? I want to see your emails, I want to see your text messages. I want to see your notes, everything, right? But it can't be everything under the sun. It has to be limited to what would lead to relevant information for this case. And both sides can do this. And when you serve requests for production, that starts a clock. You have a certain number of days to respond with your responses. You may agree to some of the document requests. You may object to others as being overly broad. Dispute, it goes to court. And the judge, a lot of times discovery disputes are handled by a magistrate judge. In any event, the court would hear argument and decide whatever the dispute may be between the plaintiffs and the defendants. And both sides can use requests for production. The second one is called requests for admission. You give statements, and the other side has to either admit or deny them. The third item is called interrogatories, and these are just questions that you answer. It's a questionnaire, basically. It's a questionnaire, and you answer them, and then you notarize your answer. So you're answering them under oath. And of course, there's depositions. And depositions are depositions, unlike the other discovery tools that I've described, is the one that's not entirely paper-based. This is one where it's always a person, even when you're suing a corporation. So you think, if you sue a corporation, how does the deposition work? Well, what happens is the corporation designates a representative, which is always a human being, okay? And this person is speaking on behalf of the corporation. So in Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman-Schultz case, she can only speak for herself, so it would be herself. In the DNC Services Corporation, it would be somebody that the corporation designates as their representative, and they are sitting before a court reporter who is a professional that is going to take down everything that is said by everyone. They are sworn in to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, and then they are asked questions by the other side's lawyer, and they have to be truthful.
Let me stop you there for just a second. So basically, if this case does go to discovery, Debbie Wasserman-Schultz will have to give a deposition, basically, since she is one of the defendants named.
It is very standard to take depositions in civil cases. I don't know why this would be any different. It's a civil fraud case, but I've taken many depositions, and so the depositions would happen in this case too.
And then for
expect.
Oh, good.
I would expect.
And for the third case, if it was dismissed without prejudice, what would your steps be from there?
We would take our direction from the court at that point. So we would refer to the court's order, whatever it may state.
What do you have any idea what that would be in a case like this?
No, I can only tell you about what happened in other cases that I've worked on. So, and in other cases that I've worked on where it was a dismissal without prejudice, I think in one case the court wanted the plaintiff to put in more facts describing the claim. That's one example, but that's just an example from another case. I have no, I can't prognosticate on this case how the court would rule. We just have to wait for the order.
And how long typically will that take? Because I remember I saw reading the transcripts that he said it might take a while. The judge basically was like, yeah, it might take a while to review everything before I give my order. What is there, I guess, an approximate time of how long that usually takes, or is it basically up to the judge's discretion?
It's up to the judge's discretion.
Okay. I guess in the meantime, while you wait, what's the process while while waiting? Are you, I guess, yeah, that's, you know, what do you, in the meantime, waiting for him to make his order, what are you doing to prepare, or how does that process work?
Oh, well, I'm going to trial in 2 cases this year, in 2 other cases in federal court. So I'm working hard on those. As far as this case is concerned, we are waiting on a court order. So in the meantime, I'm assisting everyone in managing the information on social media, because I know people have a lot of questions. You know, we get contacted, I want to say definitely, I would say every day, by folks who have questions. And so I'm working on trying to get the information that people want to as many people who want it as possible in the most efficient manner.
And I guess that leads into Jampacked. What led to the creation of that, of Jampacked, and why did you feel that was a good way to go? Was it based off the how the primary went itself?
No, Jampacked. Well, it's actually my husband's idea. He wrote a blog article. He wrote on his blog how Jampacked came to be. It feels like a lifetime ago. But been aware of Citizens United, and there are a couple of other Supreme Court cases before Citizens United that sort of laid the groundwork to eliminate protections put in place against enormous sums of money being influencing our politics. It happened, which is a Supreme Court case where the Supreme Court basically said that when you give money, when you donate money, that's speech. You're actually saying something. So it cannot be curtailed. So what that happened is it allowed these organizations, these political organizations, to form. And as long as these political organizations are independent, in other words, they're not the official campaign, they are allowed to raise as much money as they want. So what, right? Well, let me tell you. Let's say you, Walter, as an individual, want to support a candidate, okay, for president. Maybe you love Hillary Clinton. Maybe you love Bernie Sanders. Maybe you love, you know, Donald Trump or Rand Paul. It doesn't matter. Who cares? You want to support your candidate. You can only donate $2,700. That's it. You can donate $2,700 and cast your vote. Maybe knock on doors, whatever, right? Your time. You're limited in how much money you can donate to your candidate. Why? Oh, because I think we all agree that when you donate to a candidate, you influence them. Why else would you have a $2,700 limit? Right?
Right.
Okay. But now, because of Citizens United, as long as you're not the official campaign, you can express your speech by donating to these political organizations. And because they're not limited, they're like political organizations on steroids. And so people colloquially call them super PACs. Okay, they're political action committees, which have been traditionally called PACs, but it's like PACs on steroids. They're like super PACs. And so when Citizens United came down and super PACs started to show up on the scene, I really, as like just a person, I really felt like I was suffocating because I can see where this was headed. Where this was headed was, and we've already seen it, these super PACs, you should look at their donor list. They're fairly transparent, so you can look at their donor list. You person donating $5 million to a pro-Hillary Clinton super PAC. $5 million. I can only donate $2,700 to a presidential candidate. But through super PACs, all of a sudden you can donate $5 million? Are you kidding me? So I already knew that I was already had some concerns about you know, how super PACs were basically influencing our politics. But that was just, you know, my background knowledge of what happened is last year I got really into the Bernie Sanders campaign as a person. I was never affiliated with the campaign or anything. But that's like a lot of us, right? And so, I mean, I donated money to Bernie Sanders, and then I also started phone banking, which was simple. I went on BernieSanders.com, and they had directions. So I read the directions, and I started phone banking from my office, like a lot of people. Okay, I'm not the only one. And then I found it took me a little bit to figure out how to do phone banking. So if you look on the website, you can host phone banks. So I started hosting phone banks because then it's fairly simple once you figure out how to do it. So I would host phone banks, and people would come in and you know, I would show them how to phone bank, and then they can phone bank from anywhere. And then my husband saw me running around like a headless chicken, you know, phone banking and hosting phone banks. So he said, okay, you know, what is the point of phone banking? Because I was talking to people in Texas saying, vote for Bernie Sanders. And they would say, why? And then we would have this conversation. So Jared said, well, you know what? If your point is to get the platform of Bernie Sanders out there, what would be an even better, like, you know, a bigger way to do that? And so we hatched the plan to make campaign videos. And being lawyers, you know, we were talking about, and we said, well, maybe it's not a good idea to start making videos. Maybe we should do it through like an organization because it's technically political speech, right? So we looked into it, and of course, you know, the format that has the least amount of regulation is the super PAC.
True.
Right. Like, oh, that's what we'll do. And so I sat in front of you know, a web browser and typed in sec.gov, and I punched in some information, and boom, now I had a super PAC. That's how easy it is. That's how easy to start a super PAC. And so that's the birth of Jampacked, and we made a bunch of Bernie videos in collaboration with an amazing group of independent filmmakers. Vivo, who is an award-winning independent filmmaker. My husband Jared knew him from college, so he asked Danny to hook us up with a bunch of filmmakers. You know, just an amazing group of people from all over the country. To Ricardo Villalba, who made a couple of videos for us. And Ricardo is the filmmaker who live streamed the service of process in the DNC case.
Oh yeah, I saw that video.
Yeah, because I knew him from the Jampacked days, so I said, hey, Ricardo, you know, to live stream service of process so people can see what service of process is. And he said, okay, and he live streamed it with Mr. Sean Lucas, the process server. So we made a bunch of Bernie videos, and that's really it. So as far as Jampacked's connection to this lawsuit, there is no connection other than Jampacked is my super PAC, and I'm one of the lawyers on the DNC lawsuit, so there's that connection. And also, Jampack is very generously donating web hosting space to host the documents in the lawsuit.
And yeah, I'm going to be
That's
having a link there too, where anyone who wants to view them can, because yeah, they're all listed there, and it's really convenient. I think it's important, especially because when it comes to researching anything government and legal wise, it can be very difficult by yourself. So that definitely makes it a lot easier, because I have personal stories of trying to find bills that are up in the House or Senate and trying to read through that all using the government's websites, and they make it as difficult as possible to find what you're looking for.
You know, I read this article once, and you know, shopping centers, malls. Okay, so this is interesting. They build malls so that it's really simple to find the entrance to go in. But once you're inside, finding the exit is hard, even though you go in and out by the same door. So have you noticed this? They do this on purpose. So I don't know if the government is like basically doing it on purpose to make information so difficult to find. I don't know. What do I know?
Oh yes, the Senate and Congress website, they're not fun to search.
Yeah.
From
There's actually another page. The thing is, the DNC lawsuit page doesn't have the transcript on it. And the reason it doesn't have the transcript on that page is because the transcript is technically not filed in court. So I didn't feel comfortable putting it on the page where it's court file documents. So it's in another page in Jampacked called miscellaneous documents. But I know it may be a little bit hard to find. I've gotten some questions on it. So when I have some time, I'm gonna fix that up so it's more easily find, you know, you can find it easier.
And I guess at this point, with the importance of this case, what, as a lawyer working on it, what is something that you want the United States as a whole to take from it and to be aware of what's going on in our political system?
Well, you know, I would direct you to the last quote, the quote that the court left us, the attorneys, and the public with. And I want to be accurate in the quote. It was a quote about transparency. Okay, transparency, and the quote is, democracy demands the truth so people can make intelligent decisions. So one of the things I hope results from this case is that the truth comes out so that we collectively can make intelligent decisions.
And yeah, I think that's because when I read that was extremely powerful as well. And that's what I hope comes out of this, and I definitely hope it moves into discovery, because I think this is just something that America needs to see. And I hope people don't just look at it from a partisan aspect, or some of the things I've heard that it's just Bernie Sanders supporters being upset, which is, well, anyone who cares about a system of democracy should be upset if there is fraud taking place in that system of democracy. I've received a couple of negative comments about wanting to talk about this, but that's also neither here nor there. I'm kind of used to that. So I definitely appreciate what it is you're doing, and I do hope this helps our current system of democracy, and at the very least, I hope it helps do away with what we call superdelegates, but that's an entirely different story.
Well, I think that, you know, the voting public getting defrauded by a private corporation that is running elections, I don't think that's a partisan issue. Which party is in favor of that? Nobody should be in favor of that. So it's definitely not a partisan issue. And people who supported Bernie Sanders cross political lines. So I don't even know if it's a partisan issue, even looking at the class. So no, you know, I don't see it as a partisan issue. I don't.
I agree with you 100%, and I definitely appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about this. And I'm definitely going to follow everything going forward, and well, definitely want to stay in touch because this is again extremely important. And there's a lot of things that I hope more Americans become aware of, and I hope even more Americans become aware of this case and start paying attention.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, thank you for taking the time to do this interview, Walter, and I appreciate you being part of a very vibrant independent press that I've had the privilege to get to know as I've been one of the attorneys on this case. I will say that it gives me a lot of hope, you know, for the future of journalism, to see journalism that is outside the mainstream, and that is bringing the news that people want to hear, not what, you know, somebody thinks they should hear, or even, you know, delivering lies, which is a whole other ball of wax.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, and I do appreciate that. And thank you.
Thank you. Bye.